Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 677 for the 1st of January. So across the front line, Russian offensive continues over in the Kupyansk Front, over the Svatove Kreminna Front, in the Bakhmut Front, in the Avdiivka Front, and also Donetsk Front, as well as in the Zaporizhzhia Front. And stalemate continues over in the Kherson Front. So if you want to know all the details, do stick with me. And the most important thing, I think, most significant, I would think, most interesting thing is actually happening over at the Kherson Front. There is two different geolocations that was being reported by Creamy Caprice. One is the geolocation of a destruction of an OSA AKM. So OSA AKM is a vehicle. There's an anti-air vehicle firing short-range surface-to-air missiles, and there's another one also surface-to-air missile system getting destroyed. Is the Book M1. So this coupled with the previous reports of this vehicle, this another SAM system, this is the previous one, the Iris-T. It seems to suggest, not reality, but suggest that there is a possibility that the Russians are actively hunting all these air defense systems that the Ukrainian forces have been deploying into the Kherson Front, because they are unable to expand out of Krinky. They are unable to go out of Krinky and effectively build up a force over at Krinky because of the consistent Russian airstrikes at this beachhead. And I believe that over the course of the past month, the Ukrainian forces have starting to secretly or quietly deploy all these air defense systems. What is important to note is that most of this defense system is pretty short range, so there might be still something else that is somewhere that is maybe longer range that the Russians have not detected, or the Ukrainians may have quickly redraw away from this area after the success of shooting down of these two Russian aircraft. So without taking out all this surface-to-air missile system, the Russians will have some trouble deploying attack helicopters or launching airstrikes in the nearer proximity. But of course, given that the Russians are using the FAB bombs, the FAB bombs, where it's basically bombs with the wings, this of course allows the Russians to basically deploy the bomb from a much further distance. And given the fact that the Ukrainians do not have an effective surface-to-air missile system that can give them a huge umbrella of shooting anything that's flying high, they will not be able to stop, because to drop the fat bomb you need to fly high. In order to drop the bomb so that the bomb can glide to target, you need certain the height and distance, which the Ukrainians cannot deploy because of the more superior Russian air defense systems. So this is currently happening, and these air systems is not very long range. I think is just about able to cover their own defense zones because it's short range. I forgot to search about book. I can't remember the book's air defense distance, but for the OSA is very short range. It's 15 to 20 kilometers, so it is basically just enough to cover Krinky. So it's similar to the Iris-T. The range of the air defense is just enough to cover Krinky. So it looks like all this air defense system is purely deployed to protect Krinky. So this is a very interesting thing to note. But I also have to clarify. I look at both of these footage. I can't really tell the air defense system. I can't really tell the equipment. It's again blurry drone footages of a strike. I'm not sure what kind of weapon was dropped. There was a visible projectile dropping at high speed, causing a big explosion, but it's hard to tell what is getting hit. So these are purely based on information probably come out from the front line to all this open source intelligence that they destroyed. This footage is actually showing the destruction of a certain equipment. So you can only take it with a pinch of salt, but assuming that this is accurate, then this is the analysis that I have, that the Ukrainians are deploying air defense systems as to locations that can just enough cover Krinky. So this is the situation that is currently happening. Russian forces allegedly continues to attack Krinky. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they say that the Russians carried out at least 19 attacks, and this is from the morning report. So we shall see. The Ukrainians still have this beachhead. I'm not sure what is the situation right now. Are they continue to send in more forces? Are they evacuating injured people? Is there a real Russian assault? Because I can't trust the Ukrainian Defense Ministry words for it. Because sometimes it could be not an assault. The attack could be just artillery shelling. So we have to take information with a pinch of salt, that there is some nuances to this kind of thing. So we shall continue to wait and see how this develops. But it looks like the Ukrainians indeed is investing a lot into this beachhead. Given all these redeployments of deployment of surface to air missile system, and of course all the different artillery mortar systems that also clustering around this zone to support the operation at Krinky. So this is really all in. It's really all in. It's like a show hand. Like poker, they try to raise and then try to fake you, to try to bluff you, and then the Russians just race along with them, and it's like, oh. So there is a Sukhoi 27 shot down over Veloko Alexandrivka. The air defense system shot down a Sukhoi 27, and as per I mentioned earlier, okay, anyway, the distance is around 100 kilometers, so this definitely shot down by some kind of at least S300 or S400 system. And this is something I mentioned, when they need to fire this kind of like cruise missile, or they want to drop this kind of glide bombs, they need to fly to a certain altitude. Of course I'm not an expert in this kind of thing, but flying in altitude means that you are exposing yourselves to air defense systems. So this is also why probably whereas the Ukrainians investing more and more into firing cruise missiles, they're exposing their fighters more and more to air defense fire, which was not really a problem prior to the advent of Storm Shadow into this front line. And so before we move into Zaporizhzhia, some people say I farted on the stream. If you hear this sound, this is not my farting. This is just my chair. I'm moving the handle, the place where I put my arm. So I don't fart on screen. This is so random. Anyway, Zaporizhzhia Front. At the Zaporizhzhia Front, their fighting continues over at the Orikhiv sector. There is no reports, not much reports coming out, except that there is fighting reported in the Robotine region, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Suddenly, there's no more reports about fighting over at the Verbove region. Very, very interesting that suddenly there's no much report. But we shall wait. Maybe tomorrow we'll see more reports. Because sometimes they just have no intel from the front line. We move on the other side of the Zaporizhzhia Front at the Velika Novosilka sector. There is fighting reported at the Prione region. Again, both sides, both the Russian and Ukrainian claim that only the Russians. The Russians claim that the Ukrainians are attacking, but they are also attacking the Ukrainians at the same time. So it really depends on how you look at it. They say that the Russians repelled the one attack, assault detachment from the 127 territorial defense, and then they say that their units inflicted losses. So both can be accurate, both can be correct. So they inflicted losses through defensive actions. But because the way how I will also map this as an offensive, or as at least an assault. So we shall see. Maybe it's just some scout. If it's just a detachment, it's just a small unit. Maybe they are just scouting, moving ahead. And then they got killed. So quite unfortunate. There's a geolocation of Ukrainian artillery getting hit just off Novopil of Zelenopole or Zelenopo. So this is geolocated by Crimea Caprice. So this is a counter artillery action. So the Russians took out the Ukrainian artillery over that distance. And then there is also a continuation of the attack of the fighting over at Uruzhaine. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they say that their units, supported by Air Force and artillery, continue to inflict damage on the Ukrainian forces defending over at Uruzhaine. So I'm not sure when the Russians will decide to actually head over and recapture Staromayorsky and Uruzhaine. I think they are still trying to prepare the ground for it. So far, Ukrainian offensive capability or capacity seems to be near rock bottom. There is no real prospect at this moment for some large-scale Ukrainian offensive, as far as I can tell. So we shall see how this goes. It's the ball is now back into Russians' court for sure. Over at the Donetsk Front, this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, fighting continues over at the Novo-Mikhailivka region, with the Russian Defense Ministry claiming that they are still attacking Ukrainian forces in Novo-Mikhailivka. They also claim that the Ukrainians have a recon group that was eliminated near Novo-Mikhailivka. I tentatively mapped it as in the south, but near can be also to the east, to the north, so it could be any directions that this recon group has been destroyed. Geolocation of Ukrainian units getting hit by FPV drone shows that Ukrainians still exist within Novo-Mikhailivka, so definitely they are still holding a position around this strategically important town. So just to add a bit more, because this is here, the entire area here around Novo-Mikhailivka is a very hard, very easy to defend, because this is a base you can work with. Fighting along all this no man's land, all this, there's no town, it's going to be very difficult if you have no place to rest and hide yourself. So which is why this series of settlements are all very useful, and that's why the Russians having Slavny is probably very, very important for the Russians. Losing Slavny means losing this entire patch of ground. I would imagine. I do not know for sure. Over at the Marinka region, no fighting is being reported in the Marinka region. Surprisingly, this is we haven't seen a pause in the reports of fighting at Marinka since like forever. I can't even remember when is the last time. Geolocation of drones hitting Ukrainian positions at the edge of Avdiivka. Over at this glowing church, which is probably flattened by now, which is quite sad. So there's a church over here, and so the Ukrainian forces is heading over there, hit by drones. I didn't watch the footage, so I can't really tell you much about it. Over at the north of Donetsk, which is the Avdiivka Front. This is the Avdiivka Front, Avdiivka city. At the Avdiivka Front, Russian forces continue their offensive over in the eastern part of Novo-Bakhmutivka at Stepove. In the region of Avdiivka, I will always draw it in the south, and over at Povomaysky and Nevelsky. Just note about this, the one I draw in the south is always because Ukraine say that there is fighting in the area of Avdiivka, but they don't say where. So when they don't say where, I will always reference it as the bottom, in the south. So the fact that the fighting could be coming around the coke plant, it could be around Kayamka region. So just take it with a pinch of salt whenever you see this one over here. And some geolocation, basically Ukrainian forces is geolocated southwest of Stepove by Kreminna Caprice, showing a Ukrainian tank getting hit by the FPV drone. So it shows that Ukrainians definitely still in this area of Stepove. Previously they were here, so the Ukrainians definitely have a good presence around Stepove. The Russians have not been able to do much. However, the Russians do have geolocated along this tree line on the northeastern part of Badaichi. So this, which means that the Russians actually have some progress around this area here. The Russian forces managed to come out a bit more into this area here, and having this tree line definitely shows that the Russians are going to head across along this tree line, cutting the roads between Badaichi and Novo-Bakhmutivka. This will allow them to hit Novo-Bakhmutivka and flank to the rear of Badaichi if they choose to go in that direction. Of course, these arrows would take weeks to develop, because the Ukrainians are definitely not going to make things easy for the Russians. So like when I draw all these arrows, some people may think that it's very fantasy, they're talking rubbish, but all these arrows take weeks to develop. So I'm just telling the possibility of why they attacking certain places. So I'm just trying to explain the possibility, so so that we don't watch and then we don't understand what the hell is happening. So like every attack supposed to have an objective, a bigger objective, and behind the bigger objective there is an even bigger strategy behind it. So this is just some insight, or at least some hypothesis of what could be happening. If not, the Russians, why attack here? They could have attacked here, right? They can attack here, right? So they can attack anywhere. So why attack here? So I explain, maybe this way. This is the reason. So previously we have a geolocation of Ukrainian forces along the railway line. So this is actually very interesting, which means that the Ukrainians are having a position along this tree line, and the Russians have the position along this tree line. They're just next to each other around this area here. So the battle must be really, really fierce along this northeastern part of Avdiivka. We move on over at the Niu-York Front. There is nothing being reported at the Niu-York Front except that there was a geolocation of drones hitting Ukrainian forces within Pivnishny. So otherwise, there's not much things to talk about in New York. Over at the Bakhmut Front, this is Bakhmut City. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces continue their offensive in the area of Klishevka. We have no idea where the attack and the direction of attack come from. Also, we continue to have this report of fighting in the area of Andriivka. So this continues as per usual, nothing significantly special. But we do have some change in terms of the front line according to Deep State UA at Kupyansk region. The Russians captured these three lines along this area here. So previously this was under Ukrainian or possibly under Ukrainian control, and there is a geolocation of Russian forces just nice along this tree line, showing that the Russians actually have managed to progress in this area here. Based on the previous information that we have, is the reports of fighting in this area here. The last attack was in the 27th and the 31st, so probably in one of these 2 days, the Russian forces managed to capture these few tree lines in their offensive operations. So this is Kupyansk. We move on to, over in the northern flank of Bakhmut. There is only fighting being reported in the area of Bogdanivka, but we do not have details in terms of this attack. Only reports by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The reason for the lack of details might also something to do with the New Year, because it's the 1st of Jan. Maybe a lot of people is on holiday yesterday, so probably we don't have much information. I suspect we're going to have more tomorrow. But also to note, the Orthodox Christmas is coming. Russians and maybe some Ukrainians are going to be very busy with their holiday season, so I'm also expecting less reports along this time. So most likely the Russians are still pushing within Bogdanivka region down this railway track, and are probably holding positions along the cemetery region. And then they also probably have some positional warfare around the Grigorivka region or Kharkovivka region. So this is largely most likely what is happening. I don't think there's a concerted assault through Bogdanivka in the urban area. I don't think so, especially given that like I said, it's a holiday season. I think they want to keep themselves safe, at least until after the Orthodox Christmas. Then they will start to do some very major offensive. But this is just my hypothesis. I think it's very demoralizing if you ask your soldiers to storm the front while during holiday season, especially during the Christmas time. So Siversk Front, we have a report of fighting in the area of Bilohorivka according to the Russian Defense Ministry. This probably is very positional. I don't think it's much. Moving into the Kreminna Front, this is Kreminna City. At the Kreminna Front, the Russians counter-attacking over at Dibrova, and as well as attacking within the Serebryansky forestry. We don't have much details after that. So far, no Ukrainian attack in the past 24 hours. It's only reported as Russian attacks. The information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry themselves. We move on. Just to reflect, this could also refer to fighting on the 31st of December. Just important to note in case you are confused, because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry said that the Russians did not conduct offensive operations in the area of Liman. Just anything that is doing with Russian Defense Ministry, a lot of the reports tend to be dated by 1 day. So over at the Svatove Front, there is fighting reported at Stemakivka region according to the Russian Defense Ministry. There is some actions around this area here. So nothing much. I think it's pretty not. I think we need a few more days to really tell if this is a very concerted effort, because Stemakivka is always those places where there's reports of fighting but frontline never changes. And if you look at the reports, it's always very sporadic. On 29th to the 2nd, they have a consistent attack after they gave it up on the 21st, 24th. So it's very sporadic. So don't just take it take it lightly. Over at Kupyansk Front, this is Kupyansk and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces expanded their offensive again, with fighting reported on the eastern part of Petropavlivka, according to the Ukrainians. The Russians say that they're fighting at Timkovka. Ukrainians counterattack over at Ivanivka and over at Sinkivka. Russians are also pushing at Sinkivka. So this is a strategic situation over the Kupyansk Front. There is generally there isn't a lot of strategic changes in this area here. This is just a continuation of the operation until a certain town is captured or certain important stronghold is overrun. I don't think we're going to see much changes over the Kupyansk Front. It's probably most likely that the Russians are just using this front line to conduct pressure on the Ukrainians to force them to continue to reinforce into this area here. The objective probably is not to capture ground, because to make the Ukrainians cross the river and fight at this side of the front line is just stretching their logistic. It's making Ukrainians more difficult, because the Russians are they are not really deterred by geography at this area here, but the Ukrainians have to cross the river, and every time they cross the river, there's only a few bridges, and then they have to put a lot of pontoon crossings. So and all these crossings are always targets. The Russians always like to sink all these bridges, not because they want to cut off the reinforcement, but it's just going to make the logistic more difficult and make life very, very troublesome for the Ukrainians. So anyway, this is the summary for the day of 677 for the 1st of January. Do press the like button, subscribe. Of course, share this video with people who are interested in the Ukraine war, or you believe that they would want some more balanced approach in terms of reporting. And yeah, so this is the summary. I'll see you guys in the next update.